Having me participate today. My name is Brandy Orp, and I am your Fresno County Clerk Registrar of Voters. I was appointed to the position in 2012 by a unanimous vote of the Board of Supervisors. I was re-elected in 2014, and I'm running for another term in June. I grew up in Ohio, where I had a farming background, and I worked with local businesses there to get a state grant for a boardwalk in our town river walkway. I joined the Fresno County Clerk Department about 24 years ago, and as I've worked through the department, I've done every job that is within the department. And I also learned how to do county business, budget processing through the county administrative office. So I believe that voting is an integral, fundamental right of every American citizen. And my job and commitment is to provide voting opportunities and registration opportunities to all eligible individuals. And so my track record shows that in my... Okay, thank you.
Okay, so moving along, candidate Adrian Rivera.
Thank you for inviting me, everyone. Ever since I was young, I've done everything that a young regular person is told to do to be involved. Protest of the wars, I fed the homeless every Sunday. I led student groups, but I felt like I was never really making a difference. I wasn't doing anything bigger. And I thought, who's in Fresno? Who is Fresno? It's Mexican immigrants. It's Japanese immigrants. It's Hmong and Vietnamese war refugees. It's Central American refugees. And I thought, why don't our elected representatives reflect that? It's because there's something wrong with the election system. Why is it that when I live in Clovis, even though every family has a car, we could walk to our polling place? But when I live on Kings Canyon, it took 2 buses to get to my polling place. And I'm just a regular person who decided to stand up and do something about it. No one else is going to challenge the status quo.
So thank you both for your introductions. Moving on, I will start the questioning round. 1 question will be from the general Hmong community, and 2 questions will be specific to your seats. Okay. So first question will be for County Clerk Brandy. I will read the question and then repeat it. Who are some of the Hmong community members' organizations that you have worked with? Who are some of the Hmong community members' organizations that you have worked with?
Okay, during my tenure as county clerk, we reach out to all the communities, and we have, since I was appointed in 2012, had this center as a polling location, because we know that this is where the Southeast Asians people come for assistance. We have worked with Fortua for many years during that process. We have also worked with him, and most recently Mai from the HIPS organization, because as you know, we are now able to provide translated ballots in Hmong language, and we're working to get Hmong voters to serve as precinct officers. In fact, I brought some applications that are out on the table there for you. So we're engaging your community and reaching out to you to participate in the election. And as the previous panel spoke, now is the time to get people to get out and vote. And so we have a relationship with your community. We intend to continue that relationship, and we're looking forward to getting a lot more assistance for the Hmong voters.
3. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Next question will be for candidate Adrian. How much do you know about the Fresno Hmong community? One more time. How much do you know about the Fresno Hmong community?
Okay, so like I said, I'm a regular person. I was born and raised here my whole life. My family's from here as well. The most well-off place I live is in Tarpey. So every single neighborhood that I've lived in my whole life here in Fresno, my friends and neighbors have been Hmong community leaders. I've grown up alongside them. We've had the same struggles. We've both been foreigners in both of our cultures. I know what it's like. Even though I'm not Hmong, I've grown up side by them and lived amongst them my whole life. We share the same struggles.
Anything else you would like to add? Moving along, the next set of questions will be in direct regards to your seat. The first question will be for Senator Candy.
It's a long one.
Okay. With the new voting laws, what will you do to educate our community? With the new voting laws, what will you do to educate our community?
So as I just mentioned with my previous question, we are already engaging folks from your community in order to provide Hmong assistance. We are looking for two major things. One is that we will translate the ballots in the Hmong language. I believe there are 88 voting precincts in this election that will have that provided to them. We also are looking for Hmong precinct officers. We need 88 precinct officers to again provide that verbal assistance at the polls. We have been working with the center and Tao and Mai to do that outreach. We have information on our website, fresnovote.com, that is in languages, and so also in the sample ballot, the county voter information guide that you will be receiving in the next week or so, there is 2 pages on that regarding language assistance, and what we will be able to do for you. Voters will also be able to request their translated ballot to be mailed to them if they are a vote-by-mail voter. And so we are doing all of those things, and we'll continue to do that so that we can have the Hmong community participate on election day.
Next question will be for candidate Adrian. What are some county clerk resources that will benefit our community?
Okay, so to start out, since we were talking about the language, one of the big things that I realized was not being catered to in not just the Hmong community, but a lot of communities in Fresno, was the language barrier. 2018 is going to be the very first time that you can get a ballot or information in Hmong, which that's a tragedy. I mean, I've been since the day I was born, had enough Hmong families that there should have been Hmong materials available to vote. That alone is discouraging who knows how many people over all those years. The only reason it changed, it wasn't because the clerk's office found the error of their ways. The state changed the state laws on what language is required. I would not wait for the state to tell me how to react to my community. I would actively find ways to get my community to participate.
Next question, back to Senator Brandy. As county clerk, what are some of your responsibilities? As county clerk, what are some of your responsibilities?
So there's really kind of two sides of the house to my job. The official title county clerk is actually an administrative position that covers all of we do all of the marriage licenses in Fresno County. We do all of the fictitious business names in Fresno County. We are a passport acceptance agency, and so that is one side of the county clerk responsibilities. The registrar of voters position is also obviously very high profile, and that was combined with the county clerk, and that is the election side of the house. We have over 439,000 registered voters, and our job is to make sure that they are all registered, and new people get registered, and then on election day, they all have the opportunity, and we make it as easy as possible for them to vote. Since I've been in the elections office for the past 6 years as county clerk, we've increased registration over 13%. That will continue to rise because of all of the efforts that we make to reach out to people. We also have instituted several new options for voters where you can return your vote by mail ballot in the mail or in a secure lockbox outside our office or in our drive-through voted ballot drop-off locations. So we're trying to make it with your busy schedules as easy as possible for you to participate and vote. And so my total office is geared towards customer service and helping the voters participate.
Thank you. Next question from candidate Adrian. What are your plans to get to know the Hmong community? What are your plans to get to know the Hmong community?
So, like I said, I've been we've led parallel lives my whole life. Always grown up around the Hmong community. As county clerk, I would make sure that we not just had staff, but advisors specifically on the Hmong community, because it's been a group that's been so underserved all these years. I can't imagine, like I said before, I can't imagine the discouragement, just the fact that we didn't have Hmong until this year. And again, I know what it's like to feel like a foreigner in both my American culture and my immigrant culture. And I think I could use those to build bridges to the Hmong community.
Thank you. Well, thank you both for your responses. We will now ask one question for both of you guys to answer. You both will have 1 minute each to answer this question. So, County Clerk Randy, why should the Hmong community vote for you?
I know I have a proven track record of helping all voters and reaching out to all communities. One thing that you have to remember about the county clerk position is that it is not a policy-making position. It is a position that administers the laws of the state of California and the federal laws. And so many of the actions and processes that are governed by my office are governed by those laws. And you need, and I have proven to be, an administrator that follows the law and that implements these changes as they come along. The legislature doesn't make voting or the voting process any easier. It's always got a new challenge to it. And so as an administrator, you need to make sure you're flexible, you understand the law, and my 24 years of experience in the department will certainly get us through all of those processes. The language requirements is a new requirement as of January this year. It was by election law that in the gubernatorial years, the Secretary of State tells the counties what languages they must provide assistance in. Fresno County got 7 new languages. We're not only reaching out to your communities, but we're reaching out to several other communities, all in the same way, all in trying to help you be a successful voter. Thank you.
Candidate Adrian?
Okay.
Why should the Hmong community vote for you?
Okay. So the actual job is an administrative job. My entire life I've managed the private sector and the public sector since I was 20 years old. In retail, I've done, whole store management. I've managed in federal offices, but everyone also knows there's a difference between doing what's required to you by law to do your job and serving your community. I've also built my career serving my community. I'm a public tax advisor. I specifically help the public face-to-face interact with the federal government. It was confusing matters such as federal taxes. And I always go above and beyond and pursue what will help the community and not just do what's required of me.
Thank you. The next step, we will move on, is your closing. I would like to remind you that you each have 1 minute each.
Thank you to the Fresno Center for having me participate today. I appreciate the opportunity to meet you and speak with you. As I mentioned before, our department has a history of working with the Hmong community, and we're now working very diligently to find Hmong-speaking precinct officers for the June election, and then also we'll be making translated Hmong ballots available to those who requested or needed at the polling location. I am endorsed by a wide variety of folks, the Board of Supervisors, Sheriff Mims, Fresno Police Chief Jerry Dyer, Mayor Lee Brand, and several other groups. And so I have a broad base of support. I also have a track record of helping all of my voters. It's a one-day event where everything has to go perfectly. We start the election over 200 days in advance to make sure that all of the information is accurate and to you timely. And so I look forward to continuing our work with the Hmong community, and I look forward to receiving your support and hopefully your vote. Thank you very much.
Candidate Adrian?
Okay, so like I said, I was born and raised here in Fresno. I've grown up alongside members of the community. I'm not well off. I'm just a regular person who decided to challenge the status quo. I do have some endorsements. I have endorsements by many progressive groups. Since this is not a partisan election, though, I don't want to name certain parties, but others that know that we need change here. I've lived all over Fresno County. Like I said, the nicest place I live is Antarctica. I understand the struggles of everyday people and will help to improve that. I've even lived, right here behind the shopping center in Stony Brook, where even my partner got robbed on the doorstep of our house. So living in Fresno can be hard, but voting in Fresno shouldn't be.
Brandy, Adrian, thank you for coming out. And folks, I forgot to mention this, but this is a county race, so all of us can vote. It's not a district race, it's a county race, so all of you that are here can vote for either one of them. So thank you for being here. Thank you.
Good to see you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Here is candidate Elizabeth Lee for Congressional District 16. I would like to remind you of our parameters. You will have 1 minute for your introduction, 3 questions to answer, and you will have 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer each question. And you will have 1 minute for your closing. So let's start off with your introduction.
Thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Elizabeth King and I'm excited to announce that I'm running for Congressional District 16 here in Fresno. I truly believe that we need a new voice with a fresh perspective to deal with many of the challenges that are facing us here in the Central Valley. Just to kind of give you a little bit background on me, I grew up here in the heart of Southeast Fresno. I went to elementary at Leavenworth, I went to Kings Canyon, and then I went to Sunnyside High School. My parents have an Asian grocery store that I know that many of you in this room go to at Rasmi Market, and I grew up there working at that location. So I understand many of the challenges our community faces. After I graduated from high school, I went to Stanford University. When I graduated there, I returned back to Fresno to create jobs with my brothers here in Fresno, and then up and down Highway 99 here in the Central Valley, creating T-Mobile jobs for people. When I saw how challenging government regulations were to create jobs for our community here, I went to Washington, D.C. because I wanted to make a difference.
Thank you. So moving along, I will start the questioning. 1 question will come from the general Hmong community, and 2 questions will be specific to your district. And again, I would like to remind you, you have 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer each question.
1 minute and 30 seconds.
I will read the question and then I will repeat it. In what capacity have you worked with the Hmong community? In what capacity have you worked with the Hmong community?
I would say the important part for me is coming back to Fresno, I've outreached to the Hmong community, but I understand the fundamental challenges that are here. I grew up in the heart of this. My parents are refugees from the Khmer Rouge, and as a Cambodian Chinese American, I understand the struggles of being an American and also being close to my community, and how hard it is for us in general to adapt, whether it be in schools, in our jobs, and every facet of our community in order to become Americanized within our culture. And looking forward, I truly understand the legislative process and what it takes in order to get legislation across the finish line. And I know that because I have worked in a very bipartisan fashion in Washington, D.C., to get legislation across the finish line, I can bring that to our community and looking at ways and how we can take our community to the next level, whether that be in more job creation, whether that be with many of the challenges that I know that the veterans of this community have wanted to move forward with. And so I will continue that fight in Washington, D.C. I know how to do that. And as one of the only Southeast Asian Americans that I knew while I was working in Congress, I know how to get the job done, and I look forward to working with all of you come November when we win this election so that we can move forward with our community members.
The next round of questions will come from the candidate chart that is specific to your. How will you ensure that high-speed rail includes the Hmong community in their workforce and job opportunities? How will you ensure that high-speed rail includes the Hmong community in their workforce and job opportunities?
Right now, I think the high-speed rail in general, as you know, California has passed this legislation, and this is going to be something that will move forward. With many of you guys, you do know that right now, the high-speed rail is over budget, and there's a lot of challenges with it, just to have it go to completion just in general. However, I do think that it's important that once this goes through, that we make sure that the stop in Fresno and the stop in Merced, we maximize that as much as possible so that our communities are able to have jobs in general, and we maximize what that looks like. And that's not just high-speed rail. I think that's the business that we bring to the Central Valley, because right now, because it'll be easier to get to Fresno from LA to San Francisco. And I think that there's a lot of additional growth that goes beyond just the high-speed rail in general. And I think that, and I will continue to work not only on maximizing jobs here at the Central Valley with high-speed rail, but the additional benefits that can come from that, from the outside community in the private sector.
I do apologize, I forgot to mention that Jenny is your timekeeper, who's sitting right up here.
Appreciate
She will
it.
let you know when the 30 seconds is up, and she'll put up a red sign to let you know when you're done.
Okay.
Thank you. So the next question. How will you address our community's concern of individuals whose green cards have been revoked and can no longer work or apply for government support? How will you address our community's concern of individuals whose green cards have been revoked and can no longer work or apply for government support?
If there's anything I'm happy about with immigration, that's right now, it's that our country is finally talking about it. The system for our immigration reform has been broken for decades now. Frankly, the last president and the president before that were incapable of getting anything done. Everything from DACA, visas, H-1B, guest worker programs, border security, national security, it's all broken. It's time for our elected leaders who are currently in office to come together as adults and solve this problem for our community. With the challenges that we have in regards to like green cards, just in general, we need to figure out a process that allows for our community to work, because it's currently broken right now. And the reason why previous elected officials were not able to bring it, talk about this, is because it divides our country in ways that I'm sick and tired of watching it run. Being from a refugee family, from my parents, and being from an immigrant family, I understand the importance of having a process in which allows us to, the current immigrants, or the current individuals that are here, as long as they're law-abiding. Right now, to be able to go through the process. The problem is right now is, like ICE, for example, we need to have those individuals who focus on, because of the limited resources they have, focus on the individuals that are criminal and doing things that are not appropriate for this country.
Thank you. So thank you for your responses. Moving on, I would like to ask one general question. You will have 1 minute to respond. The question is, why should the Hmong community vote for you? Why should the Hmong community vote for you?
As I mentioned earlier, I truly believe that we need a new voice with a fresh perspective to deal with many of the challenges in the 21st century. I'm tired of hearing all the talk that's coming out of Washington, D.C. and Sacramento. But when we look around at our community in Fresno, and you see that we're dealing with so many of the same challenges that our community faced, frankly, 10 and 20 years ago. With technology that's coming, with globalization that's happening, my biggest fear is that in 10 years from now, I don't want this community, the community that made me become the woman I am today, left behind. Instead, right now, everybody in DC is so busy pointing fingers at each other that nobody is talking about what do we want our community to look like 10 years from now. How do we work bipartisanly to get legislation across the finish line so this works? All of us want better economic opportunities, better access to education, better, less crime in this community. How do we solve these problems with tools from the 21st century? And when we don't have generational diversity within Congress, then we don't have people that are vested in the future of, frankly, generations X, Y, and Z. I've been standing on the sidelines for a long time, waiting for some young, exciting candidate to speak on behalf of our generation. Because, frankly, with bad policies that come out of DC, we have the most screws. So I hope that I've earned your support between now and November. Thank you.
Okay, so moving on, thank you so much for your responses. We will now go to your closing.
I'm just so happy that I have the opportunity to speak with a lot of you here that are in this room today. And I want to look forward to continuing that conversation. As an Asian American, Southeast Asian American in particular, I understand the challenges within the Muslim community. I've spent my whole life focused on how to break the bridges, the boundaries, the limitations that are out there. And I know how challenging it is to kind of go out into the world and be that fighter for the things that are important to the core values of our community. And I hope that you guys give support me and give me the opportunity to help more people go into politics. I'll be honest, when I was in Washington, D.C., I rarely, if ever, met any Southeast Asian Americans that are out there. And I look forward to continuing this discussion so that we can get more people in the playing field and build that pipeline that we need in order to shake up the system, build the coalitions we need to do, and to have a great future for this community and the months to come. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Elizabeth, thank you for coming out. Appreciate that. Right, Susan.
Okay, good morning, candidates. My name is Susan Tom. I will be your moderator for this panel. I would like to go over the parameters. Each candidate will have 1 minute for your introduction, 3 questions to answer. You will have 1 minute and 30 seconds for your question. You will have 1 minute for your closing. Your timekeeper today is Jimmy. He will let you know about your 30-second warning, and when you see him flash a red card, your time is up. If you do not stop, I will cut you off. Once more, thank you all for your time, and let's have an informative panel session. So let us start with your introductions, and we will just go straight down the line.
Sure. Hi, Miguel Arias, and I am currently a trustee at St. Clair Community College, where we oversee Fresno City College, Clovis Community College, and Whately College, and a couple other centers in Oakhurst, Madera, and here in Southeast Fresno. I'm also the Chief Information Officer for Fresno Unified, where we help open Van Cal Elementary School and Gaston Middle School, and made renovations to all our major high schools and middle schools across the city. In a nutshell, that is who I am. My relationship with the Hmong and Southeast Asian community goes back to about 20 years. When then I worked for Congressman Cal Dooley, and I was responsible for the national resettlement of the last wave of refugees into the United States. That's where I got to meet Wong Zong, Lou, and others, and then resettlement of the last wave of refugees into Fresno, Stockton, Sacramento, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. Thank you, and I appreciate coming in.
Next is
Hello, I'm Tate Gill. I grew up in Southwest Fresno, home of a large amount of Hmong people within our city. And I'm glad to have an opportunity to talk to you here today. No stranger to Fresno Center for New Americans. About 10 years ago, I had the opportunity to do a lot of work with also Lu Yang and Blong and Gia, a number of others working at Fresno West Coalition for Economic Development. We worked with AVERT to address workforce development issues and small business within the community. I currently work at Fresno EOC with Access Plus Capital. We were the founders of Refugee Small Business Program, where we provided loans for a number of Southeast Asian farmers, and we continue that work today to be able to support small businesses, to be able to expand and grow their businesses.
Hi, my name is Sean Sanchez. I'm a small business owner and property owner here in Fresno. I've worked with the Hmong community by providing affordable housing to people in this area, the southeast Fresno predominantly, and I reside in southwest Fresno.
Good morning, now Jean. That's the extent of my mom. I'm a product of Fresno, born in West Fresno, grew up not too far from here in Butler Park. So I'm very familiar. I was a graduate of Roosevelt High School, so there in the early 80s, mid 80s. So my first introduction to the Hmong culture and Hmong students was as that first group of refugees was coming into our high school. And all the struggles, being able to firsthand witness all the struggles that the Hmong culture and the other cultures in Southeast Asia had coming and getting immersed into our educational society. For the last 28 years, I'm a public educator. I've worked numerous school districts around there. Spent some time in Kings Canyon, Edison High School, the vice principal and the principal. Last 12 years, I've been working with Madera Unified. I love this opportunity, and I look forward to bringing a different reference point to the educational lens to the City Council.
very quickly, your name please.
Oh, I'm sorry, Darren Miller. Thank you.
All right, my name is Craig Chardon. I'm a Fresno native and was on the City Council from 1987 to 1991. And my second call was regarding a Hmong matriarch who was dying, and her request was to have her son here in Fresno before she passed. And I worked with the United Nations and the State Department to get her son expedited so that she could have her son here with her before she passed. I also worked with Fresno Adult School, and I was on the Hmong TV show that Tammy, if any of you remember, used to host. And I worked with Lou in partnership on a grant called Fresno Works for Better Health, where Fresno Center was one of our partners. I'm very interested in helping all of our neighborhoods to be healthy so that we can have healthy neighborhoods, healthy children, and healthy people.
Thank you. Thank you all for your introductions. Moving on, I will start the questioning round. The first question will be from the general Hmong community, and the next two questions will be specific to your district. Each of you will have 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer each question. So like the introductions, we'll just move right along the table. The first question is for Trustee Miguel. The question is, who are some of the Hmong community members, organizations that you have worked with? I'm sorry, I will repeat the question. Who are some of the Hmong community members, organizations that you have worked with?
So let me see if I can remember them all. It's been about 15 years of working with so many organizations. Lao Veterans, Hmong New Year, Hmong International New Year, Fresno Center for New Americans, Stone Soup, Firm, We've also worked with a couple of Hmong group parents that we have in the district. And we've done a lot of work with Hmong businesses, our designs in particular. We've done a lot of advertisement. When I came to the district, we had never done advertisement in Hmong TV or Hmong radio, so we actually do advertisement in Hmong TV, Hmong radio, Hmong USA Network as part of our standard protocol. So yeah, those are the organizations. Lu Yang, so many of the community leaders that we've been working with over the years.
Next question is for candidate Tateville. How much do you know about the Fresno Hmong community? How much do you know about the Fresno Hmong community?
So my first experience engaging with the Hmong community was I went to Bethune Elementary in Southwest Fresno, and there was the Kulor and his family were my first interaction, in which I ended up going all the way from elementary school to high school with Ku, and just the having experience as an adult working at Fresno West Coalition with Fresno Center for New Americans, with small businesses, and looking at a number of policy and neighborhood issues. And then as the president of the Fresno Metro Black Chamber, we had an opportunity to do a lot of work with Asian Business Institute and Resource Center with ABERT. Just recognizing that a lot of the issues within and challenges within the Southeast Asian and Hmong community are similar ones that we're facing in the African American community around access to economic opportunities and jobs, support for minority businesses and contractors, the challenges that we were facing sometime in our school where we didn't have sufficient resources and support. And so having an opportunity to work hand in hand with the Southeast Asian community to create employment and opportunities is something that I definitely want to do at the city council level.
Thank you. Moving on to candidate Sean Sanchez. We have the same question. How much do you know about the Fresno Hmong community? One more time. How much do you know about the Fresno Hmong community?
Well, I was first introduced to the Hmong community when I had a client named Paula Yang came to my business looking for a help to finance a home. So my company helped her obtain the financing and helped her buy her first house. And also my second was when I purchased a property that had a Hmong tenant. And I didn't know much about the Hmong community, but talking to that tenant, I discovered a lot of the things that are really culturally diverse from the environment I grew up in as a child. He showed me how he grew up in a refugee camp, and he was in a refugee camp for over 10 years. His name was Shantatit. And I'll never forget that tenant. A lot of tenants come and go, you forget their names. I've rented to hundreds of people over the years, but Shantatit really stands out because he introduced me to the different cultural differences of the Hmong community and how close knit their family is. It was really a culture shock to me. The fact that he was in a hut in a refugee camp for all those years, waiting to come to the United States, it boggled my mind.
Next question is for candidate Darren Miller, and I do apologize. I would like to disclose that these questions will be recycled, and so some candidates will receive the same questions as others. Okay. In what capacity have you worked with the Hmong community? In what capacity have you worked with the Hmong community?
Well, just about every school site that I've worked in, school district that I've worked in for the last 28 years, I've had some intimate contact with the Hmong community. Through that, it's helped me understand and learn a lot about Hmong culture. When Southeast Asian population was first arriving here, we in the school system wanted to lump everyone that was coming into the same basic bunch. After asking questions and learning about the difference with Laos and the Hmong and Min and the different ethnic groups that come out of just Laos and understanding Cambodian, and the students that come from Thailand and not understanding that there are differences, although they come from the same region. And so my interaction with the Hmong community has probably been 35 years in the making. Like I said, I understand the culture. I've been invited to weddings. I've been invited by my students to different family events and things. I understand the importance of making sure that I'm connected. Hopefully you'll be able to pick up all of my information. And I did my best to get it translated into the Hmong language because I understand the importance of making that connection there. But like I said, most of my interactions have come through the school side. On the community side, I'm a member of the Hmong Democratic Club. I actually helped establish the Hmong Democratic Club when there was an interest to be part of the county party. So I'm starting to understand and the involvement and the necessity of getting the Hmong population, which used to be substantial, is kind of being dispersed, but getting improved.
So the next question will be for candidate Craig Sharton.
Yes.
Who are some of the Hmong community members' organizations that you have worked with? Who are some of the Hmong community members and organizations that you have worked with?
Several. I mentioned Fresno Center for New Americans, participated in the classes at the Fresno Adult School for the incoming Hmong refugees. I worked with I went back to Washington, D.C. to fight for equal refugee benefits when we found the disparity between the benefits the Hmong community was receiving compared to the Cuban refugees, and fought to get that disparity to be